from inside the art hallway at Recycle Here. This is DetroitUnspunTV. Today's show kind of reminds me of Recycle Here. There's a good bit of community building that goes on here. You'll have a piece on Detroit's long-term plan. There is a lot of good music that happens inside these hallways. And of course, there's always a little bit of a festival element to Recycle Here. You'll get that from an interview with Jon Witz about the upcoming Winterblast. Without further ado, put down that mouse and enjoy the next half hour of Detroit Unspun TV. In headlines this week, the Wall Street Journal speculates that Chrysler, once thought to be saved by Fiat, could actually be Fiat's savior. And a storage locker in Connecticut was recently opened, and there were several documents discovered that highlighted the early years of Malcolm Little, now known more popularly as Malcolm X. And Detroit's mayor and several of Detroit's unions have come together on needed financial concessions. From our own blog, we sat down with 3 organizations that are doing big things in Detroit by empowering Detroit citizens. Now, our first story comes from the Detroit Institute of Arts, where they're having a very unique exhibition about Rembrandt and the way he depicted Jesus. Here is a little bit of the history of Rembrandt and how his paintings came to life. We're here at the Rembrandt and the Face of Jesus exhibit at the Detroit Institute of Art. And it's a very popular exhibit, as evidenced by 83,000 people walking through the doors since the beginning of the exhibition. While it ends soon, we thought we would give you a quick behind-the-scenes tour of what you can expect. So the context of Rembrandt's life, and what was the culture like when he was creating these paintings?
Okay, so you're asking about the culture in the Dutch Republic in the early 1600s. Mm-hmm. It was the Dutch Golden Age, and Rembrandt was born in 1606 in Leiden, which was a university town. He moved to Amsterdam when he was 25 in 1631. And at that time, Amsterdam was a huge international port city. The Dutch East India Company had been established, and they had a huge mercantile system and ships. They were taking goods back and forth between Amsterdam and other parts of the world, including Asia, and they were trading in spices, and they had silks and fabrics, porcelain from China, and all of those things were coming into Amsterdam. So it was a thriving city with a bustling middle class. It was the beginning of the middle class of Europe. Mm-hmm. Rembrandt has taken symbols and he has combined them and to show 2 religions. And he is also showing the emergence of Christianity out of Judaism, which is something that the Protestant Calvinists were very interested in studying back in the Dutch Golden Age. Now, this particular painting points to that. As you see in the center, there's a figure of Jesus. He's surrounded by a haloing light or a divine light, showing that his divinity is from within. He is here with his 2 apostles. These apostles met him. The story is taking place after he has risen. It's after the crucifixion, and it's after he has risen. And he's walking on his way to Emmaus. On his way to Emmaus, he meets these 2 gentlemen in the road, and they don't recognize him because they believe that Jesus is dead. But they ask him if he would like to walk with them, and then they invite him to dinner because they feel a stirring inside, and they don't really quite know what it is. So they invite him to dinner, and they all sit down. Now, Rembrandt is showing that story, And he is also showing the convergence of Christianity and Judaism in here through symbolism. The symbols are, first of all, you'll see right here, there's a little wine glass turned on its side. And then in the center here, you see that Jesus is breaking bread. In the Dutch State Bible, there's an annotated area where it talks about Jesus breaking the bread in the manner of the Jews, and meaning the braided challah bread. So here in Judaism, the first blessing during a meal is the blessing over the wine, and the second blessing is the hamotzi, or the blessing over the challah. And at this point, he's making the blessing over the challah. Now, in the story of the supper at Emmaus, the apostles recognize him upon the breaking of the bread. So that's the moment we're observing right here. But we're observing the Jewish tradition with the wine glass and the bread. But then also there is a Christian story behind that also, because it refers back to the Last Supper, when Jesus was sitting there with his apostles and they drank from the wine, and he said that it was the blood of his body, and then the bread was his body. So it refers back to that Last Supper story. Also, right here, the tablecloth refers to the Christian idea of the altar cloth. Also, here you see like an alcove or a niche, which gives a symbolism of the first Christian basilicas. And then also right here you'll see a plate, which it's speculated exactly what could be, whether it could be lamb or whether it could be goat. But if it could be lamb, then it could refer in the Jewish tradition to the lamb at Passover, or the Passover lamb bone on the Seder plate. And in Christian religion, it would refer to the Lamb of God, or Jesus being the sacrificed as the Son of God, or as the Christian Savior. So that symbolism is all in here. It's the two traditions are blended, and the Dutch people who were looking at this piece in the 1600s would have been able to read that, because they were accustomed to looking for symbolism in painting, as that was the Dutch aesthetic, to use a lot of symbolism in painting.
And the other thing that's fascinating to me is that he used several different popular depictions of Jesus.
He did.
But morphing into using the Jewish face of Jesus a lot more, and that wasn't necessarily popular at the time either.
No, it wasn't. It was something that he decided to use the face of a Sephardic Jewish person who modeled in his studio. And there are many studies throughout the exhibit of this particular person with hair parted down the middle, shoulder length, in different poses of his head and different sides of his face. And Rembrandt continued to use those models, that model of that person, in many different pictures. But Rembrandt himself did not stick to using a Jewish model all the time for the face of Jesus. It was one of the tools in his toolkit that he used to portray Jesus, but he also went back to using the face of Jesus either as from antiquity, like a Roman or a Greek style, where it would be very idealized and more perfect than life. He also used the tall, blonde, blue-eyed face of Jesus. So not even Rembrandt stuck to using a Jewish model as the face of Jesus. But he was the first artist to do so in the 1600s.
With this exhibit, the DIA again proves that they are a world-class art institution, and it's right here in our backyard. So get down here before February 18th to make sure that you get a chance to see this exhibition. For more details on the extended show hours they have, go to www.dia.org. Winterblast was started as a festival to celebrate the Super Bowl when Detroit hosted Super Bowl 40. And it's back this year, and we had the opportunity to sit down with Jon Witz to ask him what's different for this year's Winterblast and what you can expect when you bring the family downtown. So we're here with the producer of Winterblast, Mr. Jon Witz, and you might know him a little bit more for his work with Arts, Beats, and Eats, but definitely the Winterblast has become one of those things in downtown Detroit that's a must-do each winter, and thanks for joining us, first of all.
You're welcome.
What can we expect this year for Winterblast? I know there are a few changes or a few tweaks to the formula. What are those things that people are really hankering for or looking forward to coming downtown for?
Well, certainly in the winter season to celebrate winter and get out in the city center. I mean, we create a wonderful array of activities. It's the one weekend that you could skate for free, courtesy of Charter One Bank, and in the beautiful Campus Martius rink. We have skating exhibitions. We have snow machines, fortunately, coming next week. That'll help us create snow for dog sledding and snowshoeing, and we just need the temperatures down a little bit, and we'll bring that stuff you just don't see, in a city center normally, the snow and the dogs and that kind of stuff. And we'll have spectacular ice sculptures in the Greektown Casino Ice Garden. There's a lot of great music and heated tents. We have the Quicken Loans Taste of Detroit with restaurants like the Hudson Cafe up on Woodward and the Detroit Seafood Market, Palm Palace and others that are going to be right up in front of Hard Rock Cafe and extend down. We'll keep that to 62 degrees. Again, we might not need the heat, but we'll have the music going and the great food, and we'll have marshmallow roasting going. We have these things that we call brazzarios during Super Bowl that we've kept, and we have families and adults roasting marshmallows. There's plenty of hot chocolate and adult beverages to go around, and there's an outdoor carnival too, so a lot of great stuff's happening.
Now, what makes a festival like Winterblast so important for the city of Detroit, or for the region for that matter?
Well, you hear about all the development and the employees that are coming downtown, but I think you always have to contribute to the atmosphere, create that atmosphere and uplift the city and create foot traffic and excitement and events. And Winterblast plays a great role in creating that atmosphere that we want to have 24/7, but you got to build it somehow. It also gives a lift to local businesses. There's no question why the impact might not be as big as Mr. Hoover's Movement Festival and the people that come in from out of state. It still plays a role in giving a lift to the local restaurants and businesses. For example, there's a bar blast on Saturday night sponsored by Real Detroit where there's 12 or 13 establishments. It's all on winterblast.com where you can pay one price and get in and go from bar to bar and support the local businesses. And of course, because we don't want people to drive after that, you can get a great weekend rate at the Weston Book Cadillac. They're a sponsor of ours too. So there's an economic impact. There's also a positive image. Detroit goes through challenges, and there's stories in there that, aren't always flattering. I think there's a lot of good stories these days, too. But it's just one of those things where people are talking great about the city. When Winterblast is going on, the media's down here, and just creating a positive light on what we all know, and the people that are in Detroit know that there's good stuff happening, and and we just support that. And then finally, for the residents of the region, it's a chance to get out of the house, celebrate the quality of life, feel good about living in this region, fun things to do, cool events. It's great for a region. So the Winterblast and other events, play an important role. And the Winterblast especially because there's not much going on in the wintertime. You hear of a lot of summer shows. Yeah. You mentioned Arts, Beats, and Eats and the Jazz Festival and River Days and Movement Festival, but in the hoedown. But in the winter, you can't run that list down. Yes. So it's good to to have something and build a bridge between the tree lighting and the stuff that happens around Memorial Day.
Now, I know the last couple of months have been a sprint for you to make sure that everything is ready and set for the Winterblast. But what's the thing that you're personally looking most forward to during the Winterblast? Have you had a chance to even think that far ahead yet?
No, always. And my favorite thing is just bringing people of all walks of life together. When we design this event, it's for all ages, all economic backgrounds, all ethnic backgrounds. There's something for everyone down here. And the thing that I like the most about the Winterblast and frankly events that we do is that there's just so much diversity, age, where people are from. That it's families, adults, the crowd changes over time, so I just like seeing people together in peace. It's kind of the hippies 60s side of me is just seeing people hanging out, enjoying themselves, and it's all peaceful.
Nothing wrong with that. quick question: the logo contest that you were running as part of the promotion for Winterblast, is the winner going to be announced soon?
It was announced.
It was announced.
We did announce, and we'll make sure we get that up on winterblast.com. I don't have her name with me, but the logo is up. It's in our artwork now, and we want to thank Marketing Associates, which is right over our shoulder in Campus Martius Park, that helped to put that together. Also want to thank Ambassador Bridge for supporting us, Quicken Loans, and some of the other Charter One Bank and others that helped make Winterblast a success this year.
Well, thanks for joining us today, John. We really appreciate it.
All at winterblast.com, and you are welcome.
Detroit Works has morphed into Detroit Long Term, which had us wondering, what does this mean for Detroit's citizens?
Detroit Works is a project that has received a lot of media attention over the last year. But what happened to the project? Well, it's morphed into something called Detroit Long Term, which is focused on getting citizens' voices for a long-term vision of what to do here in the city of Detroit. They've set up roaming tables across the city with individual meetings in community centers and places of the like to get citizen input from across the city. We took a few minutes to talk to the people involved, to visit one of these stations, and hopefully learn a little bit more about what Detroit Long Term is and why it's important that citizens of Detroit participate.
My coworker Blake Hill and I, we designed this table to make it portable to take to different places throughout the city. And it's called the roaming table officially. It doesn't really have wheels, but it's all made out of recovered wood and scraps. We have a dry erase board to change the message wherever we go. And this table piece is made out of one long 8-foot table top that we cut in half and hinged up. And these slat pieces are old floorboards. So we had fun building it and stenciling it with some of the cool paint.
Well, what we do is take the information and organize it. We pull it in and we organize it by where it was collected and how it was collected. And then what we do is we try to organize it in a way that we can track these comments, and then they kind of take a path from the roaming table to our partner group, Michigan Community Resources, where it's then organized into a database. Then from that database we develop reports that then we meet with the technical team, the architects, engineers, economic development specialists, and we blend that information with the existing conditions work that they're doing. And so that helps to inform the strategy.
Excellent. So what drew you to be involved in a project like this?
Well, it's funny because being here in Detroit, a friend of mine mentioned, well, what's going on there? What are you doing? I said, listen, you don't put a Band-Aid where there's no cut. We've got a lot of issues in Detroit, and I want to be part of the solution.
Excellent, excellent. So when somebody puts their form in the box, it's going somewhere. It's an attempt to make change.
Yes, and we're tracking that geographically and by what those comments are talking about. Is it about the environment? Is it about businesses? Is it about neighborhoods? And so we track it in that manner, and then we'll look at who on the technical team needs to get that information. It is a long-term project, but by the end of July, August, around that time, the idea is that we will, by that time, have developed a strategy. So the input will be taken, we'll move it through different processes, we'll take it back to the community and say, is this what you're talking about? Are these the ideas that people think we can work with and support? So we'll develop a strategy around that. But then what we look at is how can the communities that we've been reaching out to, the people we've been reaching out to through the roaming table and through going to existing meetings and building capacity with those groups, our ambassadors, our process leaders, and then bringing them into into the fold and having these discussions about how do we implement this. And that would be the discussion we look to have towards the end of the project in July, August.
So what's the number one reason you would say that a citizen needs to find one of these roaming tables and get involved?
This is an opportunity to have a discussion and to create a dialogue with the community on our part. So this is what we're doing, but we want to make sure we capture those voices that weren't captured in the past Detroit Works work that has been developed to make sure that those voices are brought into the mix of what's going on, and so that people in the community have a say in how we move forward in developing this strategy on where Detroit's future is going.
And finally, what excites you most about being involved in such a large-scale community voice project?
I can honestly say, and as we always say around here, the biggest asset, the people. Just the different people you get to meet from East Side, West Side, Southwest, Central, wherever we go, we meet so many interesting and wonderful people, and who really want to get involved, and who are very optimistic about seeing the city, move forward and have put together a comprehensive vision for the city.
Hopefully the last few minutes have shed a little bit of a light on what Detroit long-term is, what its goals are, some of the people who've been involved in the project, and what's going to happen with the information over time. This is Jeremiah Stays reporting from Eastern Market. Back to you, Dave.
While the rest of the world is focused on the Super Bowl in Indianapolis, we know that your focus is squarely on what's happening in downtown Detroit. That's why we give you this week's Dig Downtown 5. Judging by our recent weather, spring is upon us. But judging by our calendar and the number of events people have that are indoors, winter is clearly still upon us. So play it safe this weekend and check out these 5 indoor events that you can dig downtown. Number 1, 1515 Broadway, Detroit Cash Mob, Week 2. Now this is one mob we really can embrace. It's a bunch of people congregating to spend their greenbacks at one location. And for this particular one, 1515 Broadway, make sure you bring cash because they don't accept credit. Number 2, Start Gallery presents Royal Blood featuring Malt and Teed. And one thing that we really like about the Start Gallery, other than their sweet location in Paradise Valley, is the idea that they're not afraid to have exhibits that other people shy away from. Now, graffiti is not normally accepted as art, although these 2 graffiti artists they're featuring this week are really going to make you start to reconsider your definition of what art is. Number 3, Afrobeat Album Art Workshop. Now you might be seeing the billboards all around town for Fella, the musical, and wondering what all the buzz is about. Well, this is a great way to go down to the Charles H. Wright Museum and find out exactly what that musical is all about. Number 4, 7 Year Itch, fundraiser for the Michigan Humane Society. Now, as somebody who's just adopted a dog, I highly encourage you to get down to check out this particular fundraiser. And if giving the gift of a permanent home to a dog isn't your thing, the musical acts and the giveaways that they've got slated for Saturday evening are well worth the price of admission. And number 5, D-Hive Build. Now, normally our events are all about the fun things, the cool art, the great food that are in downtown, but this one is a great opportunity for getting your entrepreneurial groove on in the city of Detroit with a ton of help. From inside Recycle Here in Midtown Detroit, that's this week's Dig Downtown 5. 3 weeks ago, we were here at the Northeastern District of the Detroit Police Department for a press conference about a new way the Detroit Police Department is approaching policing the city. And we're here today for another press event to see just how that new model works and exactly what that means for citizens.
In Detroit, we receive about 1.5 million 911 calls each year, which equates to about 183 calls per hour. 2 reasons we want to educate the public on when to use 911 are as follows, and these are major points. 40% of the calls that we receive into our 911 center are the hang-ups, prank calls, or they're non-emergency calls for service that need some type of referral. Less than 20% of calls resulting in police dispatch require an immediate police response. This further substantiates the need for the public to properly use our telephone crime reporting unit, or again, our virtual precinct.
We need your cooperation. We need the citizens' cooperation to make this a reality. However, in the event that a citizen calls 911 because they're confused and just quite don't understand the difference as to when to call, that call will be redirected by our ESOs, which are 911 operators, to our telephone crime reporting unit, and they'll receive immediate assistance. Our average wait time as of now is approximately 10 to 20 seconds. So thus far, the pilot gives us great indications that we're on the right track and we're being successful and we're tweaking as we go. If you look to the rear of the room, you'll simply be able to see telephones that are on the wall. When a citizen in the virtual precinct model from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. walks into the district station, they're able to simply pick up those telephones right there, and it automatically transfers to our TCRU unit, where we have operators there, TCOs, and also some limit duty police officers able to assist them and take those telephones, able to give them a report. Thus, we don't have to have as many officers in the precinct station sitting, waiting to take that report. The citizens in the community has been asking for years as far as we need more officers on the street from behind the desk, and that's exactly what we're doing with this telephone crime reporting unit and also virtual precinct.
But with respect to some of the successes that came out of the pilot, number one, there has been a decrease in the number of overtime hours. We've been able to cut the number of hours by 50%. Secondly, and that was a part of this pilot, trying to get more boots on the ground, so to speak, we've been able to do that on all 3 platoons. So there's more officers out on the road. Another thing that we're sort of proud of is the fact that there has been zero citizen complaints recorded to this date regarding the change in the protocol.
Then last thing that we want to indicate that the citizens will realize is a difference in how they enter the precinct buildings. Officer safety is of utmost concern, and given the fact that we'll have fewer people inside the building, there will be a phone at the entrance of every police precinct and district, so the citizen can pick up the phone, announce their presence. The officers will then have an opportunity to prepare themselves to receive the citizen and screen them to bring them into the building.
Starting February 6th, citizens of the city of Detroit will still be able to come to their police precincts after 4 o'clock, but instead of just walking in, all they've got to do is pick up the phone, and help is on the other end of the line. For this week's Detroit People, Ashley Hennon had the opportunity to sit down with a 12-year-old beatmaker who says he's been doing it for years and discuss just what keeps him innovating in music.
Well, I'm passionate about music. I've been doing it for a long time, for about 4 or 5 years, and it's becoming second nature to me because when I get up, I think about music. When I come home, I think about music, and I just, put all the expressions onto my program and turn it into music. The way it sounds, like if you can move side to side and everything like that. If you listen to a music or a track, it can give you inspiration to do other things. Well, the main thing I've learned is you really can't give up, because when I was, younger, people used to say you can't, a young person can't really make beats, and then I just kept going. I didn't give up. I just kept making beats and learning and looking online. That's basically how I learned how to make beats, is online. I taught myself how to do it. Actually, I was doing it before UVille, then I came to UVille, and then it kind of helped me with a few of my instructors like Jarvis. When I found UVille, at first I didn't want to go because I didn't know a lot of people there. I like going places where I know a lot of people, but I began to, start experimenting more. So when I came to UVille, I didn't really know what to do or anybody here. But then I started becoming well-rounded, and I started learning a lot of things and how to use different programs. So it's beneficial to me coming to UVille. I'm only here in a time frame, and within a time frame, I just make music. I mean, if I could choose between making music and walking around, of course I make music because I like it. I am 12 years old. 5 years makes me 17 years old. 17, I can imagine myself, driving myself to school, going to a pretty nice high school, thinking about college, and music-wise, probably I could probably start my own record label and get a lot of people under me, so I can have or I could join somebody else's record label. But now, you know how people, make their own side record labels. People say when I get older, I'm gonna make progress and get better. Like when I get older, I hope to make history while I'm young, be the youngest producer, to make it.
Thanks for joining us for the last half hour of Detroit Unspun TV. And there's a lot that happens behind the scenes each week to put this half hour of news programming on the YouTubes for you. Our thanks this week to Matthew Namey and the crew at Recycle Here for letting us use his space to shoot. Our thanks also to the DIA for giving us that exclusive tour of the Rembrandt exhibit. My thanks personally to Jeremiah Stays behind camera 1, Ashley Hennon behind camera number 2, and of course to you, the viewer. Buena suerte, Detroit.